I don't think I ever feel proud of myself.
Yeah, which is true. That's tough. I mean, that's how I felt when I won those Emmys. I was really hyped because for a long time I was like, that was just like a goal. I mean, we even talked about it back in Portland. I was like, bro, I got to win an Emmy.
Yeah.
And then I won two, and I was like, it was dope for like all of 10 minutes. And I got the trophies, and I was like, this is cool. Put them in the box, put them in the shelf, and I was like, all right, well, what's
Why do you think
next?
that is though? I don't understand like why I feel like
Yeah,
that.
part of it has to be, but I'm telling you, part of it I feel like has to be some sort of branching off from being an athlete. I feel like it has to be. I have this conversation a lot, and I try and figure this out because I'm always like, me and Yancey talk about it a lot, where you're like, I was like, bro, I don't know why you just. It's weird that you just can't be like, I did a really good job here. I should take a second and appreciate that.
Yeah.
And that's probably not a good thing that we don't do that.
I think I might have, if I was relating it to sports, maybe we became like dopamine fiends.
Oh yeah,
So like
definitely.
I don't think there's like a dopamine rush that I could get that like maxes out like playing in front of 65,000 people, winning a big game or something like that. I never thought about it. Like I was just like, oh, I'm just continuing my life. That's just not a part of my life anymore.
Right.
But that kind of rush and like that high that you get from playing sports and making a big play in front of a crowd and the cheering and the admiration and all that kind of stuff. I never really processed that part of it, being like, oh, I like that is probably going to be a hole in terms of like my sense of gratification that I don't get anymore.
Also, you're chasing something all the time because when you first get to school or you first get to practice, you're like, okay, well, I got to make a few good plays so then they'll notice me. Okay,
Yeah.
well then from there, the next goal is I got to make even more plays so then I can get playing time. Then once you get playing time, you're like, okay, now I want to be a starter. Then it just keeps going on. Now I'm a starter. Okay, now I want to be one of the best players on the team. Now I want to be all league. The end goal almost always moved, and I think especially now that we're out of sports, it's like, what is your end goal? Is for me, obviously, to some point, like we always talk about, is comfortability. Being comfortable and just have the freedom to do whatever you want. Now
Yeah.
you could obviously branch that off into each sub branches of whatever it is that you want, but yeah, the ultimate idea of you always want to achieve more and more and more. I don't know if that's good for you or not. I don't know, and I fall into that as well.
That's what
So
we're trying to figure it out. And I think that's what makes it so easy for sports is because you have a clear directive.
Yeah.
Comfortability. That's to me, that's so abstract. And I've been trying to figure that out myself. Like, what does comfortability mean to me? Because I'm technically comfortable now.
100%.
Like I can pay all my bills. Like I have a car. I got a crib. Like
You
I
can do
eat
the
whatever
things
I
that you
want.
want, yeah.
Yeah, I can do the things that I want. Like I can travel when I want to. Like it's just that sense of always needing to do the next thing that keeps me from traveling. But I could if I wanted to. So it's like, but I'm still not comfortable. Like I don't feel comfortable. I feel like I almost have like a constant state of anxiety where I feel like, oh, this is not enough. And which is just weird feeling because I feel like I'm genuinely a grateful person. Like
Yeah.
I respect the abilities I was given. I respect the hard work that I put in to get what I have right now. But I just always feel like, bro, this is not enough.
Facts.
If you look at like Lamar Jackson, for instance, he's so focused on
Lamar.
love easy. He's so focused on winning a Super Bowl, and that's
Yes.
what I mean. Like he can point to that directly. It's not about being. I mean, he did just make $260 million, so I mean, he's not worried about. I'm pretty sure he's
Yes.
pretty comfortable.
Yes.
But in terms of his career and his sense of pride and gratification, all that kind of stuff, he can focus that on one singular thing. Not an MVP. He already won those. He doesn't care about that, or at least he doesn't seem to care about that from his interviews.
Right.
It's just Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
And
a direct goal.
and especially when you're working outside of a corporate environment or you just have interpersonal goals, like it's hard to find that, like, I guess the better term would be a North Star to where you can point to where everything else has to fuel getting towards this thing.
Yeah.
And I've been having a
in that
lot of
direction. Yeah.
and especially with the new year coming in, I've been having some trouble finding that North Star. Like, what is that one thing that I can base everything else around? I don't even know if you're supposed to do that. I think maybe sports is just unique to where you can do that. And maybe that's not how you're supposed to live as just like an everyday person that doesn't play professional sports. But I've been having a big trouble, especially in the new year goal setting and stuff
Yeah,
like that,
that's
trying to find what that thing is to just full steam ahead, everything around this thing go.
Right. And it makes it easier to be focused when you have that North Star, that goal that you're like, okay, like you said, everything else is pointing towards that I
Yeah.
want to get. So I know the steps I have to take, like we already talked about with sports or career-wise or whatever it is. Like you said, when you moved here to Atlanta, you knew what you had to do, obviously, to break off of working in corporate and then start your own business.
Yeah.
When I got into television, I knew what I had to do in order to get to a point where, okay, now I'm a main anchor in a certain market.
Yeah.
Then once you reach that, you're like, now I don't really know. Because I'm in the same boat right now where I was trying to goal set the other day. And I really sat down. I was like, man, like, this is different because it's always been, I want to go to, not always been, but hey, I want to go to a top 5 market, Atlanta. Or I want to be in a place I want to be really bad like Atlanta. I want to win awards. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to make X amount of money. Then you already do that. Now I'm kind of like, it's kind of weird because I don't want to say I'm floating around a little bit, but I'm kind of trying to figure out what the next, like, this is my ultimate goal.
Yeah.
And it's weird because when you don't have that, you almost feel guilty. And I've been feeling a little bit guilty right now because I'm like, I don't have this like supreme ultimate goal where I'm like, I want this and I have to get this by this time and it's going to make me feel better. And I need to achieve it in order to feel something.
The other day I was writing down goals and trying to find that North Star and like money, like I try to put dollar amounts on it. And that didn't stir me to passion. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, yeah, I always want to make more money. I always want to have nicer things and live a more elevated lifestyle, not only for myself, but for my family, friends, my girl, all that in between. But at the same time, like, that wasn't stirring any passion in me. And then I was thinking about, well, maybe it's purchasing a home. Like, yeah, I want that, but it didn't create that burning sensation inside of me. And I have to believe that sports wasn't the only thing that could do that. I didn't really like football like that. I just wanted to go to college for free, to be honest.
I was good, man, so I did it.
I just wanted to go to college for free, to be honest, and I wasn't going to go to college otherwise. So it was just like, hey, it's either this or we're going to have to figure out a trade school or something like that.
And maybe it's just benchmarks that you have in everyday life. That who knows, maybe that'll help you kind of ignite a passion, because that's what I've been trying to figure out as well. Is it can't be the money all the time, because again, we see it all the time where people say, I want to make X amount of money, then they do, and then you get there and you're like, oh wow, like this is great, but I am kind of feeling weird. Not empty, I wouldn't say that, but like to a degree.
I think you could say empty though,
but that's
bro.
what I'm saying, is that at what point can you realistically goal set? That's something that I'm looking, as well as you are, like we've been saying, that we're trying to find. Like, what is a reasonable North Star that you don't have to maybe throw every ounce of your being into in order to reach a certain point or destination? Because when you do reach that destination and it's not all this that you think it is, what's next?
I don't even have to look externally. I just think about the people I know. And from a money standpoint, the people that I know that make way more money than me, there's no more sense of gratification I can see in them. We have quite a few friends that I've seen their elevation happen over time.
For sure.
And their sense of accomplishment, at least from what I can tell, hasn't really changed that much. Just off of the money. Maybe it's other things that give them that kind of sense of accomplishment, but it's definitely not the money. And I think for a long time I was so focused on the money, and I'm like, it's not doing anything for me outside of increasing my lifestyle and allowing me to do things I wouldn't be able to do otherwise. But I'm saying, to really drive me to where I feel like I'm in my bag right now. Like, this is something that I could wake up every day and I'm like, oh, I'm tired. No, we're here. Let's do it. Like, man, I might not this is hard. I have to go out of my depth. I have to learn this whole new skill set. Doesn't matter. This is what we doing. So this is what we got to do. It's just been really hard going into the new year, finding that for me.
Yeah, I've been in the same boat where I was like, man, I don't know what goals I have. I've been talking to a lot of, obviously you and I have talked about, but I've been talking to a lot of people about that where I was like, man, like, I just don't know. Like, I think I poured everything into like big market, get some Emmys, make more money. And then I got it and I was like, I mean, it's cool. I'm grateful 100%. I realized like what had to be accomplished and I did it. And a lot of people helped me along the way. And I'm extremely grateful. Like you said, I'm very aware and present of the situation I'm in. And I'm very happy and grateful that I'm in it. Now I'm like, man, like, I don't really know what that next ultimate supreme goal was. Because that drove me, the past 3, 4, 5 years to get to this point. Now you're at this point and you're like, oh, like everybody says, it's cliche, but it's not everything it seems to be. So now you're here and you're like, well, what can I do now? What am I going to do now?
I think for me, and I mean, maybe this is just what we should do now. I mean, we've kind of prefaced it, but I kind of want to just break it down and we could just talk it out now. How I usually do things, I just put stuff in the bucket. So obviously I have my personal business, Functional First, and then I just have like the personal business that's like Jimmy Swain with like the content creation and all that kind of stuff. And then I have Choose Up, and then I have just like my personal, like personal development and like all that kind of stuff. So for me, like the bucket for Functional First, I can't even think. Just like I'm trying to stay away from quantitative goals, but since it is a business, I think that's the best thing is just metrics. So probably just like have 100 online clients. I think that would be the biggest one on that.
But is that something, again, is that something that's like, is it driving you to feel like you can wake up and that's what you want to do? Like, I'm driving to have X amount of people sign up for my online stuff.
I think I can. I just haven't been doing it. You know what I mean? I've been kind of letting it go into the back of my mind. But if I stayed present and I kept it in my mind, like, this is what my count's at right now. This is where I'm trying to go. Like, if I reminded myself instead of just letting it fade into the background because I'm making a certain amount of money and I feel good and it's cool. Like, but if I really kept that in the forefront, like, no, like, even a little bit of self-deprecation, which I think is a little healthy, just being like, yo, like, you're failing because it's the goal you set and you haven't even taken a step towards it this week.
To a degree, yes.
Like, to a degree, like, you know what I mean? Just like saying like, yo, you're failing because you're not even pushing for it. For Choose Up, you know, we took that little break, which I think was necessary. It was a lot of stuff going on. Best metric to use that, I'll probably use Patreon because I'm setting that up, you know, for the gang right now. Stay tuned. It's coming soon.
Subscribe to the Patreon.
Stay tuned. It's coming soon. But I think a realistic goal is to have 500 members on our Patreon by the end of the year. I think that's something that's really doable. I think that's something that can point us in terms of making sure that we keep the quality of the content on point and everything in that respect. And then my personal brand, I think that across aggregately all platforms, I think I could hit 1 million this year, realistically.
for sure.
Just making very positive content because people are so negative.
Man.
That I want to bring some joy. I want to make sure that I bring some levity to my content and really have some fun with it. And let that be the jumping board for growing the community. For personal development physically, that'll be the one thing is like by the end of the year, I want to have that shoulder surgery. So I got to do everything else around that to make sure I can, because a lot of my business is around like using my body. So I got to be able to take 3, 4, 5, 6 months off without having to be able to work out full tilt. And then just like personal development, I started taking that class. I think I told you about Khan Academy. You know Khan Academy, but he has that financial literacy course, and I'm good. I feel like I'm pretty good with money now, but I really want to dive in deep and take my knowledge about finances and financial literacy to like the next level.
I would say for me, man, and maybe this is the problem I've been having is that I need to break it up into, like you said, into kind of some subsections. I've been trying to get back into writing every morning.
Yep.
You know, getting into a process of like, come on, man. Like, you don't have to just wake up, go to the gym, sip some coffee, go to work, and then come back home at midnight and fall asleep.
Yeah.
And I find myself falling into that a lot. And I'm like, man, like I wanted this for so long, and now I have it, and I'm letting it take over the rest of my life, which is not realistic. A big goal of mine this year is really actually live your life. Like, live it and enjoy it, because everything doesn't have to be about work. Now, obviously, my job bleeds over into personal life, but it doesn't always have to. And I remember I was talking to my mentor about it. He was like, man, he was like, bro, you're thinking about this way too deep. Like, it's not like the second you clock out, like, obviously go wild out and be crazy, but like, man, have fun. Like, bro, live your life, man. Like, you don't have to be a professional 24/7 all the time. Like, you don't have to be like that. So that's a big goal, is to not let work bleed over into my personal life and be able to be present and live an actual life that does not revolve around work. That is the biggest one for me. I want to learn something, bro. Like, I feel like it's been a very long time since I've sat down and been like whether that be with finances or whatever. Because again, I'm the same way. For the friends in the group, everybody knows I'm cheap, and I will always be cheap for said reason, because I feel like it helps me with my finances. But I want to learn, like you said, financial literacy. Like, I want to actually understand money and how it can help you, so I'm not penny pinching with everything I do.
Yes, bro, 100%.
You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, man, like, I know this is this much money and it's nice quality, which is for the most part what I do. But at the same time, I'm like, but do I really need this right now? Nah, I'll wait for another 5 months, and then it gets more expensive, and then I'm out of luck. You know what I'm saying? So learn how to be financially literate, but at the same time, don't be too cheap. And I would say the last one, bro, for me on a serious personal level is, it's been weird, man. I've been overthinking a lot for a lot of things, and not like from I feel like I'm being judged or this, like that. I feel like I overthink a little too much about every situation. Like, I'm almost trying to be too calculated with every move. Even if it's small things, man, like, they start to take over. I'm like, well, should I be doing this? Because how is that reaching towards what I actually want? But then you keep overthinking, because then at the end of the day, you're like, well, what is it that I actually want? So now I've just continued to be in this cycle of like, I'm overthinking, don't overthink. But at the same time, is it helping you reach this goal? Okay, what is the ultimate goal? Okay, now I'm overthinking again, and it's just a constant cycle of that.
Yeah,
So
bro.
finding a way, and maybe it is therapy, but finding a way to saying not overthink is extremely broad. But
Yeah.
finding a way to be, you know, I don't want to say in the present either because that's very broad.
I think it's just taking that clutter out. Just
Yeah.
cause I kind of feel the same way as you, as like, you know, just taking out the clutter,
Yeah.
simplifying things down to where 'cause I think, you know, when you work on yourself, you get to a certain point to where you've gotten into the weeds almost too much, where you're like so specific and trying to be so intentional about every single thing you're doing.
Man.
When there's other people that they're not dumb, but they're almost like it's almost like an ignorance is bliss type of thing. Like I'm just not gonna care. I'm not gonna care about the types of failures that could happen.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna care about the potential outcomes. I just see this thing. This thing looks good to me, so I do this thing.
Right.
And I think there's some beauty in that simplicity.
I think
but
there's a lot. Yeah, for sure.
I just want to. That's what I think. That's what I'm trying to do. Just even recently, you know, trying to get into this process. I just want to clear out as much as possible and get down to the basics as much as possible. Like 1 or 2, 3, 5 things max.
For a lot of situations.
Yeah, like for all the stuff, you know, like the
Yeah.
breadth of things that I do,
Yeah.
I want to have 5 things max
Yeah.
that I'm like, yo, if it doesn't have to do with these 5 buckets, when right now there's like 20 buckets. If it doesn't have to do with these 5 buckets, then I just have to, I just can't give it as much attention right now. I just can't.
Yeah.
Because I think, you know, I was almost blessed to have so many opportunities in so many different areas, but it almost like overwhelmed me to the point to where I'm like I started freezing
Yeah.
to where I felt like I couldn't do anything because I'm like, I have to do this. And what should I prioritize this over this for this business and this business? It's like, girl, it's too much. It's too much. And I don't have a team yet. For those of y'all that don't know, everything is still on me. If y'all follow me on social media, everything you see, editing, everything is still all me.
For sure.
So I just have to simplify that down, stick to the basics, and that's just how I'm taking it.
And just be realistic. I think that's a big thing for me too, is being
Yeah.
realistic. You're not gonna have it all figured out. I don't think any of us are like right away.
Man, I be feeling like I need to.
See, and that's part of the overthinking is I'm like, man, like, how do I not have it figured out? Because I've laid down the groundwork almost so strategically. How do I not have it figured out if I've done A, B, and C that's gotten me here?
Yeah.
So how is it that along the way I'm still not understanding or I'm still overthinking when obviously what I've been doing has been working?
Yep.
So how do you know? I think that's the question.
I would love to hear your perspective on what's your next step, do you think, in terms of, you know, a big thing. Obviously you have your job, but for yourself, I know you talked about living in present, but what do you think your next step is in terms of figuring out what it is that you want to where you can focus on it? It doesn't have to be one singular thing, but what do you think that step is? How are you thinking of starting that process?
Like you said, going down to the core of what I personally want, not what you would want for me, not what,
Yeah.
you know, my mom, my girlfriend, whoever would want for me, what I want from me first. I think that's a big thing that for a lot of the time I've been, you know, helping out a lot of other people, and whether that be emotionally, physically, whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? Like helping a lot of people out, which is great. And that's why obviously you build relationships with people.
Yeah.
But I think I just need to take a step back and say, this is what you want right now as in me, and learn what it is that you want.
Yeah.
Because I think that's where I'm at the point where I'm like, I don't know what I want anymore because I've gotten a lot of the stuff, and like I said, I'm extremely blessed and thankful and grateful that I've gotten all the things that I wanted,
Yeah.
or most of the things, but like now I don't know what I want. So let's
Yeah.
clean out the clutter and find it out what it is that you want, whether that be, like I said, on a physical level of maybe being in better shape or whatever it is, or on a mental state where it's, you know, I feel more comfortable and not overthinking, or I feel a little more direct on the decisions I'm making on a day-to-day basis, but not being overcalculated, you know, and not stressing myself out for no reason.
Yeah.
I would say that's probably it.
I like that. That's the same thing for me. Obviously, you know that I help out a lot of people, man. And I'm really big on, I know that it may not appear that way on social media, but I know I can be very cold-hearted towards a lot of folks sometimes. I'm very self-aware, like I know that. But when it comes to my actual people, I'm very much about taking care of people and you know, and in that respect. But I have, like last year, I told my girl this, like last year I felt stagnant. I felt like I didn't really progress at all. And so this year, I think that's because I was so focused on what this person expects from me, what this person expects from me, instead of like, what do I expect from myself? I want to have high expectations for myself for no other reason like not my girl, not my mom, not my family, not my friends, then I think I can.
Yeah.
I know I can. I know I'm capable of whatever those things I decide that they are. And that's why I'm going to have a high expectation, not because of the expectations or the accountability I have to others, but for the accountability I have to myself. And I think that was one thing, is I just wasn't accountable enough to myself last year. If you're having trouble looking for your goals, if you're struggling through that tumultuous time of finding what the next step is in your elevation, your personal growth, your finances, your friends, your relationships, I hope this conversation was helpful. I know we're both going through it right now. We're both trying to elevate and achieve bigger things. So that's the whole reason why the Choose Up exists in the first place. So if you got some benefit out of our conversation, if you have any tips, if you have any suggestions for us, please leave them below in the comments section. Make sure you subscribe if you're on YouTube. If this is your first time listening to Choose Up, you can find us on your Apple Music, Spotify.
On what?
On your Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you get your shows, your YouTube, whatever, you can find us there.